Hello there, and welcome. Are you all snuggled in and ready for a story? Great, let's begin. You know, this story is one of my favorites. It takes place in a faraway land a long, long time ago. It's got a kind king, a secret treasure, and a really big surprise at the end. I can't wait to share it with you. All right, so our story begins with, you guessed it, a king and two beggars. It all starts in this beautiful, grand kingdom. Now, this king was just a wonderful ruler. He had a really good heart, and all the people in his happy kingdom loved him very much. And every single day, just like clockwork, two men who didn't have very much would come to the king's big, beautiful castle, hoping he might share a little of his kindness. But here's the interesting part. These two men were very, very different. The first man would always bow down low and say, "Oh, thank you, my king. Everything good I have is because of you." But the second man, he'd look up at the sky and say, "Everything good comes from God's grace." Well, the king heard this every day, and pretty soon he started to really like the first beggar. He thought, this man gets it. He knows that I'm the one helping him. You know what? I'm going to do something extra special for him. And so the king came up with a secret plan. A golden plan. He was sure this plan would show everyone that his good fortune was the one that really mattered. He thought to himself, aha, I'm going to make this man so rich he'll never have to worry again, and that will prove that the king's favor is the most powerful thing of all. So here's what he did. It was a 3-step plan. First, he told his royal gardeners, "Bring me the biggest, roundest pumpkin you can find." Second, he secretly hollowed it out and filled it all the way to the top with shiny, sparkling gold coins. And third, he got ready to give this amazing, treasure-filled pumpkin to his favorite beggar. The very next day, the king was so excited he could hardly sit still. His plan was all set, and soon his favorite beggar would be getting a very, very heavy gift. So when the first beggar arrived, the king smiled and presented him with this huge pumpkin. The beggar was so happy. He bowed and said what he always said. "Oh, thank you, king. All is due to the king's grace." But as he started to walk away, oh boy, he was struggling. Wow, he thought to himself, this pumpkin is so heavy. How am I ever going to get this all the way home? What am I even supposed to do with it? He had absolutely no idea there was treasure inside. Well, just then, who should he see walking down the road but the second beggar? And an idea popped into his head. He called out, "Hey friend, do you want to buy this giant pumpkin? It's a little too heavy for me. You can have it for just a couple of coins." And the second beggar said, "Sure." So now, the pumpkin full of treasure belongs to the second beggar, the one who always thanked God. I wonder, what do you think happened next? Let's find out. We're going to follow that pumpkin because this is where the story gets really good. The second beggar was just so happy with his new pumpkin. He didn't mind that it was heavy. He carried it all the way home, just thinking about the yummy meal his family was going to have. He felt so grateful. He put the big pumpkin right on his little kitchen table, took out a knife, and slice! He cut it right open. But what he saw inside, well, it wasn't pumpkin seeds. Whoosh! A whole mountain of shiny gold coins came pouring out. It was more money than he had ever seen in his entire life. He just couldn't believe it. He and his family were rich. But hold on, the story isn't quite over yet. Because back at the castle, the king had no idea what had happened, and he was about to learn a very important lesson. So, after a few weeks went by, the king got curious. He thought, I wonder how my favorite beggar is doing with all his riches. So he asked both men to come back to the castle. And when they walked in, the king's jaw dropped right to the floor. The first beggar, the one he gave the pumpkin to, looked exactly the same, still poor. But the second beggar, he had on new clothes and looked so happy and well-fed. The king was totally confused. How could this be? After they told him the whole story about selling the pumpkin, the king finally understood. He had made the perfect plan, but it didn't turn out the way he thought it would. He realized that sometimes there are bigger plans at work than our own. And that's the moral of our story tonight. We can try to plan everything, but sometimes wonderful things happen in ways we just don't expect. that amazing treasure found its way to exactly the person it was meant for. I really hope you enjoyed our story. If you did, maybe you could give it a little like. And if you subscribe, you won't miss our next story time together. Until then, sleep tight and have the sweetest dreams.